we tapped into Kyle Odegaard. He tweeted out that he had more insight on Eno's release, and this is from his Compare.bet article. The decision was made because of Benjamin's vocal displeasure with the diminishing role in the offense, and that's according to multiple sources. So, I mean, pretty much what I mentioned earlier in the show,
ding,
you know,
ding,
the guy gets one snap yesterday, and it's like, why? You know, we got Keontae Ingram out snapping me. He gets 5 snaps, 1 carry, and Eno Benjamin gets no carries in 1 snap, and then James Conner's getting 96% of the offensive snaps. Eno was probably felt like he had earned it. And I don't disagree with him. You know, probably should have seen at least more PT than that, and the team was doing the player a service as far as giving an opportunity to go find work elsewhere.
That's shocking to me. First of all, producer extraordinaire Emma getting that graphic up, fantastic work. And then to Bo, but I have to admit Bo is right, which is also difficult for me to do after he made his point. And Damian and I shat on it in the first segment. Here's what I will say. Eno and his agent must be hearing around the league that he would have a prominent role if he wasn't on the Cardinals. Like other teams feel like he could go and perform for them. I'm shocked that the Cardinals said, yeah, go be successful, not somewhere else. Because that's what they're telling you right now is they don't think Eno can go and produce elsewhere. Where they're like, we've seen you. It's not a big deal.
Or they're just making a decision like, hey, we don't need you. You know what I mean? Like,
but they do need him. They don't have any
it's struggling, but it's struggling. You know, it's tough for everybody, you know, right now. And we're just trying to find ways to win. And we go out here and we're winning a game and you're being vocal about your displeasure. I mean, James is the guy. I mean, it's all about situations, right? You know what I mean? If we have a guy doing, you know, crisp ball, you know, alley-oop ad reads, we're going to get Johnny. If we need some insight for, you know what I mean, for in the huddle, we're going to talk to Bo, or how to throw a curveball, we're going to talk to Bo. If we want to talk football, what it was like as a player, we're going to go to D. You know what I mean? This game is situational, right? And I think with Eno, I mean, sometimes when you chirp up, you got to be wary who's listening, because somebody was listening, and obviously they didn't like it, and it was time for them to go.
They don't have a surplus of backs, and I'm sorry if you feel like Eno Benjamin is out of turn. Then that's when Keim and Cliff have to be like adults and sit him down and just say, okay, we know you're upset. We're not going to cut you. We still think you're a valuable part of this team. Let's clear the air. And to people's points in the comments, too many players leave this franchise pissed at this franchise, whether it's Patrick Peterson or Anquan Bolden or Chandler Jones.
Easy. I mean,
no. And I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to play the devil's advocate, you know, real quick. And
you're not putting Eno in that category. I know.
You know, what did Robbie Anderson do in Carolina, and then what happened to him?
He got sent. They shipped him out. Yeah.
Well, then the Cardinals picked him up, and he's got a roster spot. You know, Benjamin doesn't. That's not a great
look, Johnny.
Makes sense. Be consistent with your energy. Be consistent with your energy.
He vocalized how upset he was after he played 1 snap. I mean, they won without him, and I'm not saying that was justified. You know, I thought that there was a role in a good role for Eno Benjamin on this team. I don't think when there's a healthy James Conner that, you know, it should be a work share or a split, right? 50-50, but I thought it would be like 60-40, to keep James Conner, a guy who's been oft injured his entire career, healthy and fresh enough to be the guy that scored 18 total touchdowns last season, and also kind of bring what Eno brings to a football game as far as his versatility. You know, they said he did so well as far as pass pro, and we saw that he's leading the team in yards per carry. So it is strange as far as that goes. Now there is more to this, and I'm getting more information as far as sources close to the situation, that there is interest around a guy like Eno Benjamin to get claimed, and that his I guess his group did not anticipate this at all.
I mean, no one would expect that to happen. I mean, you don't think that? I mean, I'm a bit old school, and I remember, you know, I mean, it comes back just some of the early conversations, you know, with my father when I was playing, and maybe wasn't getting the playing time that I deserved, and there were guys making a lot of money, and you know, sitting here now as a parent, it's like, hey, son, you know, develop that equity before you chirp off, because you never know what's going to happen. Right now you have a check, right? You're on the field, you're playing, you know, he was returning kicks. It may not be what you want, but it's what you get. And unless you got something, you know, maybe he just felt that comfortable that, hey, that there's something better out there for me. But I don't know if I would have reacted like that after one game, right? And I mean, this is what it is. We don't foresee him coming back on a practice squad. I mean, with severing ties under those circumstances. So, you got to wish him the best. And to me, it seems a bit hypocritical when Robbie Anderson cusses out his coach, gets, released, and at the same time, then he gets signed by the Cardinals, and the Cardinals, release Eno for the same, issue. They give other people second chances, but, apparently not Eno.
It's really, I mean, I get it. I get the double standard there, but he did it in Carolina, and this is a Cardinals team that needs to know who's 100% bought into this. And I think a lot of the times, and DA, you could speak to this more than I can, but anybody has this as far as in the professional world, where people feel like if they pay their dues, if they work hard enough, if they spend the time, if especially in the NFL world, where you're at every workout, you're at every gym session, you're at every OTA, every voluntary workout, and with Eno Benjamin in his fourth season for the Arizona Cardinals, he bided his time. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, and still, despite playing well and contributing this team, his role diminished. And I understand that frustration, but at the same time, I mean, this is a results business, and this is a team that's at 4-6. They're not 6-4. They need guys to completely buy into doing whatever it takes to get them to 5-6, to 6-6, and really change things. And if a guy's sitting there saying, after a win, why didn't I play? I can see how the organization was just like, look, you're valuable to us, but you're not DeAndre Hopkins. You're not James Conner even. You play a role. We can't have this right now.
Well, and the problem also is Eno was a 7th round pick and he plays running back. And so, is there self-awareness that needs to be had on Eno's part? Obviously, you're confident in yourself to do the job.
And he should be.
But I would say,
but you also got to be prepared not to get a check the next week.
Well, and here's the thing. Chase Edmonds waited his turn until about year 4. He popped off, right? And Eno's only in year 3, and Chase was a 4th round pick, and then he got paid this offseason. I think, you can make an argument Eno would have been under contract next year. I mean, pending a coaching change, I believe they would have probably brought him back. James Conner is the one, I think, with the injuries and everything, could he be cut with the salary, whatever? If I'm Eno Benjamin, I'm just I just got to keep doing what I'm doing. But I'm not Eno, and I don't know his situation. And I'm trying to play devil's advocate here of what you think? Does he think his market is robust enough that he's going to go somewhere and be a major player? I guess he does.
And I don't know, but Agent 47 had, said it in the chat, Greg Dortch will be next. And I want to use, I don't think Greg Dortch will be next, but I want to use him as an example. I mean, look at his involvement early on in the year and what he was able to do. And I mean, now his role is special teams punt returner. And I'm sure he's not happy with that because he knows that he can be a contributor at a high level and help this team win ball games. But we talked about this, Bo, Johnny, at length when, other superstars came back. This team was, 2-4 or whatever when Hop came back, right? And then they were able to. They were still 3-5 with Eno, or 3-5 with Eno. So it wasn't like they were rushing for 100 yards every game. I think that we saw sparks. You saw productivity. You saw what you wanted. And he played better than a 7th round draft pick. And I just think that, unfortunately, it was a circumstance, but it doesn't feel good about because he played so well too. And then you just, signed Robbie Anderson. He's local, right, too. And, and you signed Robbie Anderson, who basically did the same thing on national television.
And if I'm Steve Keim, it's I am shitty in the draft. I'm not a good drafter. And I found somebody in the 7th round that can play. How many 7th rounders has he found that can do it, that can even make the team? That's why we were singing, Keim's praises with a couple of weeks ago. I'm found a gem, right? Where would Eno Benjamin go if the draft was redrafted? He was a prospected 3rd round, 4th round pick, and we got him in the 7th, and he looks good. And he's being talked about as a 1A back to James Conner. And then 3 weeks later, he's off the team. It blows my mind. And I think all of this to say, Keontae Ingram, I think, is going to perform. I think he runs violently. I'm excited to see him in an expanded role. But I didn't want it to be at the cost of Eno Benjamin, who, at the end of the day, I did not envision this ever happening. I don't know how the Cardinals are going to rationalize it if something happens to James Conner. You're going to be in a position where you are behind the 8 ball already with 2 quarterbacks now that are hampered due to injury, an interior offensive line that has trouble getting a push, and you're cutting healthy backs that know your system, that have been entrenched in it for 3 years. Make it make sense. Make it make sense to me